always from the heart of the city, and now on demand 24/7 on the CHFI website. This is the soundtrack to accompany Habits. And I'm Don Jackson, around the world on the internet. Sidney J. Harris from Field Newspaper Syndicate some years back wrote, "A habit is like old-fashioned adhesive tape. Easy to stick on, but the longer it stays, the harder it is to get off, until finally, when it's ripped off, it takes skin and all with it." This hour, some habits, with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Macy Gray and I Try, and Alicia Keys, Fallin. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. It's November 09. Where has the time gone? It's hard to imagine, but there once was a time before personalized license plates. That was the time this was written. Jane Goodsell from Press Associates said, "Driving habits would improve if motorists had their names imprinted on their license plates." To take that a step further, living habits might undergo a renaissance if we wore name tags all the time. Unquote. Habits don't have to be negative. There are many positive habits of those who would strive to be successful. Stephen R. Covey, from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, published by Simon & Schuster, wrote, "Seek first to understand and then to be understood. Most people do not listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. They're filtering everything through their own paradigms, reading their autobiography into other people's lives." Unquote. And in that same book, he also wrote, again I quote, "It's incredibly easy to get caught up in an activity trap in the busyness of life, to work harder and harder at climbing the ladder of success, only to discover it's leaning against the wrong wall." Unquote. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Billy Joel and Piano Man and Gerry Raffrety on Baker Street. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Dan Coates wrote, and I quote, "Character cannot be summoned at the moment of crisis if it has been squandered by years of compromise and rationalization. The only testing ground for the heroic is the mundane. The only preparation for that one profound decision that can change a life or a nation is those hundreds of half-conscious, self-defining, seemingly insignificant decisions made in private. Habit is the daily battleground of character." Unquote. Dan Coates in Imprimis. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com.
I will.
Ray Charles with Norah Jones, and Here We Go Again. Genesis, Hold On My Heart, and Neil Diamond, I Am, I Said. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. General C.C. Krulak, in Courage to Face Up to Ethical Challenges, and posted on the internet some years back, said, and I quote, "We are not born with character. It is developed by the experiences and decisions that guide our lives. Each individual creates, develops, and nurtures his or her own character. Being a man or woman of character is no easy task. It requires tough decisions, many of which may put you at odds with the more commonly accepted social mores of the times. Making the right ethical choices must become a habit. Decisions cannot be situational, based on others' actions, or dependent upon whom is watching. Cowardliness in character, manifested by lack of integrity or honor, will sooner or later manifest itself as cowardliness in other forms. People who have the courage to face up to the ethical challenges in their daily lives, to remain faithful to sacred oaths, have a reservoir of strength from which to draw upon in times of great stress, in the heat of battle. The words of General C.C. Krulak, USMC Commandant. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Tracy Chapman in a Fast Car, and Sting, If I Ever Lose My Faith in You. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. This is called The Touchstone. It was featured in bits and pieces in Economics Press, and I quote, "When the great library of Alexandria burned, the story goes, one book was saved, but it was not a valuable book. And so a poor man who could read a little bought it for a few coppers. The book wasn't very interesting, but between its pages there was something very interesting indeed. It was a thin strip of vellum on which was written the secret of the touchstone. The touchstone was a small pebble that could turn any common metal into pure gold. The writing explained that it was lying among thousands and thousands of other pebbles that looked exactly alike. But the secret was this: the real stone would feel warm, while ordinary pebbles are cold. So, the man sold his few belongings, bought some simple supplies, camped on the seashore, and began testing pebbles. He knew that if he picked up ordinary pebbles and threw them down again because they were cold, he might pick up the same pebble hundreds of times. So, when he felt one that was cold, he threw it into the sea. He spent a whole day doing this, but none of them was the touchstone. Yet he went on and on this way. Pick up a pebble, cold, throw it into the sea. Pick up another, throw it into the sea. The days stretched into weeks, and the weeks into months. One day, however, about mid-afternoon, he picked up a pebble, and it was warm. He threw it into the sea before he realized what he had done. He had formed such a strong habit of throwing each pebble into the sea that when the one he wanted came along, he still threw it away. So it is with opportunity. Unless we are vigilant, it's easy to fail to recognize an opportunity when it is in hand. And it's just as easy to throw it away. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Chantal Kreviazuk with All I Can Do, and Steve Winwood, and While You See a Chance. And I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers, commercial free from iTunes and CHFI.com. Morris Mandel on the subject of habit in the Jewish press some years back wrote, and I quote, "Habit is most difficult to defeat. If you delete the first letter, it does not change a bit. Delete another, and you still have a bit left. Take off still another, and the whole of it remains. But if you take off another, it is wholly used up." This goes to prove that if you want to get rid of habit, you must throw it off altogether. Unquote. Morris Mandel on habit in the Jewish press. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. I hope you will tell all your friends about Lovers and Other Strangers. Good night, sweet dreams. I'm Don Jackson.